Hi there, this is big news that just broke a couple of minutes ago, so I'm rushing this off to get it out. Deadline just reported on 3 new Game of Thrones prequel pitch ideas that HBO is considering. So this isn't just a rumor we heard on Reddit or something. These are potential prequel pitches that HBO is discussing right now. They're not official, they haven't been ordered, but these are 3 ideas they're considering, and this is in addition to Dance of the Dragons, which is House of the Dragon, in addition to Tales of Dunk and Egg, and in addition to the potential pitch for Robert's Rebellion. And the huge thing is these are not ideas we ever thought they'd do, and it's possible that means these are specials, not full series. But first, the 9 voyages of CORLYS VELARYON, the sea snake. This one will be live action because this is the only one that has any motion on it, any serious motion in the near future. HBO's Rome's old showrunner, Bruno Heller, is attached as an executive producer to this pitch idea. Nothing's been finalized, but they're pursuing it. I'm not sure if this is a full series or like a made-for-TV movie or a one-shot high-budget miniseries. And I think if you would do this, there isn't enough material to keep like a 7-season show. I get the feeling that like the Voyages of CORLYS VELARYON would be like a 1-season, really high-budget miniseries. As a special to be, this is a direct prequel to House of the Dragons. It actually makes sense to do this because CORLYS is a big character in it. And I think part of this might be them wanting to really expand the world. And whenever we say, how do you expand the world to show the other continents? One of the best ways to do that is show an explorer who went to the other continents. That CORLYS took his fleet east to their fantasy version of India and China, loaded up his ships with rare spices and silks, and came back and became, at a stroke, the richest man in Westeros. So a great way to open up, maybe we should do prequels in these other continents and other spin-offs and stuff, particularly Yi Ti is their version of China. This is the right way to do that, make a CORLYS show. It's just we never thought they'd do it. So that's going to be amazing. I mean, I think it's going to be a lot. The pitch is to make it live action. I'm so excited. I'm sorry. It's just, the pitch is live action because Bruno Heller's attached. And it's the first one they do, and this makes complete sense as a tie-in to House of the Dragon. I think it's actually like a 10 years before the Rogue Prince era. So this is like season 0 of House of the Dragon. A direct prequel, and I can really see them doing this. I think part of the reason they might have done this is they want to have shows with, Asian people and Indian people in it, because he goes to their version of the Jade Sea is their version of the Far East. And that they're kind of pandering to get into the Asian market. And I am fully convinced that's the right thing to do. I would have begged them, make CORLYS VELARYON's Voyages and pander it to the Asian market. It's the good idea. Do you realize that after everything that's happened the past decade, Game of Thrones was never popular in Japan? Just, they have a bad streaming deal there, so the show was only on, they don't have HBO there, they don't have HBO Max, they put it through Amazon. They just never got market penetration there. The first time a cast member went to Japan was when Maisie Williams went to promote it in season 6. In the lead up to season 6, Maisie was the first cast member who ever did a promotional event in Tokyo, which is a world city. So Yi Ti is their version of China, Leng is their version of Japan, which is this big offshore Japan-like island. So they want to open up their fantasy world's version of Asia with this by having a link. Well, an explorer went there, which is brilliant. That's what they should do. It helps give context to House of the Dragon. That's a really good idea. I'm just stunned they did it. The other 2 ideas are not currently with any writers attached to them. And on top of that, because there aren't, like major TV producers like Bruno Heller attached to them, one or the other of these other 2 ideas might also be the animated project they talked about. I've been following the news. The last wave of announcements was, we're considering a live-action Dunk and Egg, we're considering a live-action Robert's Rebellion, and animated projects. So maybe these other two are the animated thing they previously reported on. Because the second one is Nymeria and the Rhoynar and the 10,000 ships. Which, wow. That is pretty much whenever anyone wonders about can we do a narrative outside of Westeros, this is usually one of the top one or two ideas. That if Doom of Valyria is the fall of Valyria, this is the rise of Valyria. Well, it had already risen, but this is the point when they stamped out their last enemies that could oppose them on any level. That in Rome terms, because Valyria is fantasy Rome, the Rhoynar are sort of like their version of the Greek city-states, and the Rhoynar are the ancestors of the Dornish. So this is like the last gasp of when Rome finally climactically wiped out Carthage and wiped out the Greeks and took over everything. And the biggest battle in history, that the Rhoynar banded together in one last attempt to fight back against Valyria's rise with a 250,000 man army, and they managed to besiege Volantis, and for one shining moment the Valyrians knew fear. Then the Valyrians threw everything they had at them. 300 living dragons. The Battle of Volantis is 250,000 men versus 300 dragons. And yeah, the Valyrians have fire magic, but they briefly mentioned the Rhoynar had water magic. I know it's kind of like Avatar: The Last Airbender. Well, we're the fire nation, we're the water nation, but it's cool. They said that the Rhoynar have water wizards who were managing to kill dragons with it. It's through weight of numbers. There were too many dragons to fight. And that's just the beginning of the story. I mean, the 10,000 ships are the core of it, but this would begin with this high-budget, biggest battle in history, the Battle of Volantis, 300 dragons. They've actually shown this very briefly in the Histories and Lore. It was narrated by Varys. It was one of the better ones. I'm going to load that up to my channel. That was just the beginning, because the rest of it's basically structured like the Aeneid, where it starts with a big battle, their civilization is destroyed, and then all the surviving Rhoynar under Princess Nymeria, they flee across the ocean. If you're going to point out, well, it's kind of like Battlestar Galactica, well, yeah, but in the 70s, Battlestar Galactica ripped off the Aeneid, so Nymeria then goes leading this refugee fleet all around the Summer Sea. They spend a lot of time in Sothoryos, their fantasy version of Africa. Then they go to Nath, which is home of Missandei. They don't stay on Nath because even though the Nathi are willing to give them aid, they all get butterfly fever, so they have to leave before they die, because you don't just send people to Nath. Then they go to the Summer Isles, but there isn't enough room. Then they go to Dorne. They land in Dorne, and like the Aeneid, they fight a battle for their home at the end. So, given how much live-action Game of Thrones shorted the Dornish and turned it into David Friedman's sex fantasies, with you want a good girl and just treating it as an afterthought, they are giving us Nymeria. If you heard that name before, it's because Arya named her direwolf after Nymeria. And just wow. And given the massive budget you would need to show 300 dragons, to show Sothoryos, where it's basically Skull Island in Sothoryos. It's Monster Island. They say there are basically King Kong-sized gorillas there that can kill an elephant with a single punch. And there's dinosaurs, and it's Skull Island there. And Yin, a strange and evil city of mystery, Cyclopean ruins. I'm geeking out here, but Nymeria might be the animated project. And in many ways, it might need to be the animated project, just the budget would be mind-blowing. And I don't know if, even if this was live action, it could sustain a 7-year TV series, or it's like a high-budget miniseries, or perhaps a high-budget one-season anime show of some kind, animated thing. Either way is good, because there's an argument for this would be so much CGI anyway, we might as well do it animated to keep it, not limit what we're trying to do. As opposed to Game of Thrones, they were trying to show off it's the biggest production in history, when you could never make a 1-for-1 scale of this for like the battle against the White Walkers, and you're just trying to show off how many stuntmen you can hire as opposed to furthering the story. So this is stuff years in development from now. I suspect that's the animated project. And obviously there was in the first round of pitches, and I was heavily promoting the leak about the Doom of Valyria show. That Doom of Valyria happened 400 years before Game of Thrones, and the final war against the Rhoynar and the 10,000 ships fleeing from it, that was 1,000 years ago. So this is earlier than that. It's not as far back as the Long Night. That was 8,000 years ago. Or the coming of the Andals. That was 6,000 years ago. But it's relatively recent history, even though it's literally 1,000 years ago. It's not the time of legends. They have history books going back that far. The Age of Legends is 6,000 years onwards. This is long after the Long Night or anything. It's 1,000 years ago, and some of the Valyria stuff I leaked would probably still apply to that, because most of my leaks were cultural things about, well, these are the political factions in Valyria, and this is how they developed as they were conquering other people. And my leak source, because I was looking at the series Bible, sort of told me that, well, we'd see the fall of the Rhoynar in flashbacks, maybe, or in the histories and lore attached to it. But, it's all of these are ideas originating from Martin. It's not that the TV show came up with this is what Valyria is like in its prime. It's Martin did, and there's two prequel pitches. One is about the fall of Valyria. The other one is about Valyria's triumph, that once they defeated the Rhoynar, they ruled half the known world. They had no enemies anymore. So if we suddenly get details about this Nymeria show, describing sphinxes, young dragons, and freeholders in Valyria, it'll confirm the leaks I had about the Doom show. But the Doom show is a little more important for the Targaryens, because it's also the point when the Targaryens go to Westeros and they become important. I don't know if Targaryens would even be in the Nymeria show, except as like a cameo. They weren't an important family very early on. I mean, it would be a cameo. They wouldn't. And after like the war at the very beginning of the story, once they leave Essos and they go wandering in Sothoryos, there's no need for a Targaryen to be a recurring character. But just, wow, after how we were fantasizing in our wildest dreams about after how bad they did Dorne, and this is an insult, you let someone's frat bro millionaire's son ruin one of the greatest fantasy franchises of all time, particularly turning the Dorne is this triumph. It's so popular with people. It's diverse, strong women in it, and they turned it into a sex joke, and they didn't care, and then just dropped it like a dead weight and went, it's not my fault. That our fantasy was, wouldn't it be great if we get a Nymeria show to make up for all of that? And I don't care if it's animated or not. I'm a big fan of Japanese anime and other and adult Western animation. This is not just for kids stuff. Even today, people think it's kids stuff, that you can do stuff with animation. So I suspect maybe the Nymeria show, just due to its cost, was the animated project. And briefly, the third idea is a new thing we'd never thought of. They gave us no details. They just said it's about Flea Bottom. Well, actually, the 9 titles, I think I said this already. The CORLYS VELARYON show, the official title is 9 Voyages. The second one is 10,000 Ships, formally. And the third one just says Flea Bottom prequel pitch. And I guess this is similar to what Martin said. Wouldn't it be fun to have that Spear Carriers show where it's not a continent-spanning war, it's closer to Duncan. I mean, Duncan the Tall was born in Flea Bottom, and he grew up as a street urchin there. Maybe it's a Dunk prequel for all I know. But just the idea of just have something about the City Watch fighting petty crime in Flea Bottom. Hey, maybe that ties in with House of the Dragon as well, because the whole Daemon reorganized the City Watch to be an effective force, and he became the Lord of Flea Bottom. Maybe this is another prequel thing, just showing him making the Gold Cloaks in their present form, because they didn't really exist before that. That's when Flea Bottom really became a thing, because it was a slum. So I'm not sure on the date of when they're going to have Flea Bottom there. It was a slum. It just came about because they didn't plan out the city very well. And I just keep thinking of how during Season 8 they had that montage on NBC of potential prequel ideas. Most of them were really fake things. One which we were kind of half serious about was they had the cast of Law and Order SVU, like Mariska Hargitay and Ice-T, dressed up in gold cloak outfits, and just cops on gold cloaks on the beat in Flea Bottom. And that's basically what the show is, or like a Dunk and Egg prequel. So keep in mind, these are pitches they're considering on a scale of years. I don't think they're full TV series. Some of these might be specials, or one of it or the other of these, like the Nymeria one really sounds like the animated project, but a live action, because they got Bruno Heller attached, a live action Voyages of CORLYS VELARYON as like a season 0 prequel to the prequel. It's like season 0 of House of the Dragon. So that's going to be amazing. So this is breaking news, came out about 45 minutes ago from when I heard of this. So things are in motion. Please subscribe, check back. We keep getting surprised with all these amazing announcements. Maybe they put it out today because this is the day the Snyder Cut drops on HBO Max. I'm not sure, but subscribe and check back often. We can't predict when all this is happening. I got a lot of other things planned. If you wonder why I haven't posted anything for a couple of weeks, I've been slowly finding copies and editing together highlight reels of the actors who are going to be in this, in House of the Dragon. And some of them mostly just did theater stuff and a few minor TV performances. So I had to hunt down like all the Emma Darcy clips. So I'm going to have these montage clips showing, if you don't know who these actors are, this is what they're like, and reviewing them. I've been in a production cycle, not in a posting cycle. So I got a lot of stuff I'm going to be loading up in a couple of days. And are they going to have a follow-up announcement? Is George R.R. Martin in an hour or tomorrow going to make a blog post update talking about these announcements and giving us some more context? I don't know. So keep checking back, subscribe, help me with the algorithm, and just, people thought this franchise was going away. It won't. We will rebuild. We will take back everything we have lost.